Hey everyone, welcome to Rev 1211 Life Course, and we are in a new series right now, and that series is in the book of Colossians. And Colossians is another one of Paul's prison epistles. That's why we kind of started with Locked Up in the Word when we began with Ephesians and on to Philippians. But the Philippians was, of course, about joy. So we were saying get joy in that series. But today we're starting Colossians, and this is, of course, a letter written to the church of Colossae. And just a simple breakdown of what this book will be about. There are 4 short chapters, and he's going to talk in chapters 1 and 2 about the doctrine of Jesus Christ. And then 3 and 4, he's going to talk about the practical steps and the practicality of walking these things out in 3 and 4. But he starts with a prayer. Of course, we've talked about it before, how Paul starts at least, 16 times he starts letters, and he speaks about grace and peace to you. So he starts out with that. He starts out with a prayer, thanking them for their fruitfulness, taking hold of the gospel, and actually running with it. And he also says, then he says in verse 9, he says, "For this reason, we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding." I'll stop there, and that's what Paul's going to talk about, God's will. And I touch on this because a lot of times we ask, what is God's will for my life? That's a big question. What is God's will for my life? But first of all, I think we should examine what's God's will. Now, once we know God's will, maybe we can operate in his will for our lives and our purpose. So Paul is saying that. And how do you do that? He says that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will and spiritual understanding. So we'll hear it again. It says in verse 10, he said that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being fruitful in every good work, increasing in the knowledge of God. So he's already hinting, he's already telling us that there's a way to know God's will. And that one is, once you've heard the gospel, once you've heard, he said that you may walk worthy. And we've heard that before, where Paul is encouraging the people, walk worthy of the gospel. Walk worthy of the spirit that's in you now. And then he says, fully pleasing him and being fruitful in every good work. So whatever you put your hands to, whatever it is you're doing, you want to see fruit from that. You want to see the fruit of the Spirit be revealed in all that you do. That's the goal. And also he's saying, in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God. And there he goes again. Everything that we're doing, that should be your goal, is to increase in your knowledge of God. Once you increase your knowledge of God and who he is, then you'll start realizing what his purpose is for your life. But you got to seek and get to know God more in order to know his will. And then, once again, know the will and the purpose for your own life. So that's the encouragement today. But I wanted to make sure that we understand that. He goes on in verse 11, strengthened with all might according to his glorious power. All right? The more we get to know God, the more we get to know who he is, we're strengthened with all might according to his glory, not ours, for all patience and long suffering with joy. So he's just saying that in this life, man, you're going to need patience. There's going to be long suffering. But you can do all that in his might, not your own. So I'm going to leave you with that. And we're also going to get back, Lord willing, in our next segment, it's going to talk about the Father who qualified us. That's really good. So guys, take care. Lord willing, I'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Take care.